Welcome back. I am still checking my emails every hour. So I'm dying to know how many people will email me from the last video to get set up with James's brother. So if you haven't watched the first video, you definitely should. And we're gonna move right into the second half of your singleness Q&A questions, which I'm very excited about. Welcome back to another episode of Life Advice You Do Not Hear in Church. My name's Tiffany Dawn. This is my husband, James.
Hey!
And hit subscribe to see more videos like this. Okay, let's get right into it. I'm wondering, writes one of you, where's the line between waiting on God, but also putting yourself out there?
A lot of times you might think being reliant on God means I'm not going to do anything and I'm just going to wait for God to
throw him in my lap.
Yes.
I totally thought that was going to happen for me.
Yeah. And even you could think about that with a job. Like, I'm just not going to apply for any jobs. I'm not going to apply for college. I'm just going to wait to see what God is going to do.
People don't really do that. They only do it with singleness. I'm not sure why that is. It's like,
that's a good point.
Nobody thinks they're going to get into college without applying. Nobody thinks they're going to have a baby if they don't have sex. Nobody thinks
kind of a weird example.
I'm just saying, you try to have kids,
That's
all
true.
these things. It's you put in the effort and you trust God with what happens because you're not in control of what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not in control of if the application works out or if you get pregnant, but you put in the effort.
Yeah.
So why do we think singleness is we sit and do nothing? I don't get that.
Yeah, so I would say put in the effort. Try to meet people. Maybe even try online dating.
Yeah.
Try different things to put yourself out there and meet people, but know that you're still fully relying on God for the result.
Yeah. And I think online dating, as a side note, because a lot of you asked about online dating, we are total supporters of it. We know a lot of people who have met their spouse online.
What I would say about online dating is it's kind of like shopping at the thrift store. There are some great finds there, but you have to be willing to go through the rack and only take 1 or 2 out of 100. I'm making up those numbers, but it's a lot of duds out there, but there are some great people out there too.
Okay, so the next question is, how do you know if God is showing you that a certain someone is for you? And what if you just don't find that person attractive? How important is attraction when it comes to looking for a spouse? I've met a really good guy, but I'm just not attracted to him, and I hope that doesn't sound mean. I used to be so afraid of that happening. I used to be so afraid I was gonna end up with someone I didn't want to be with or I didn't find attractive.
Yeah, I think that if you appreciate that attraction is a lot more than, hey, I'm putting up a guy's face. How would you weight his looks on the scale of 1 to 10? That's not what we're talking about. Real attraction is more, when I see this person, when I interact with this person, I'm drawn to them.
Right.
I see them as they are, and I have a love or an affection for them.
Yeah.
That's attraction, and I think you need that.
Absolutely.
And it's more than how someone looks. It's more than their body or their physique.
And that can be part of it, but that is not all of it.
But you do need to have that.
Absolutely. I think just remember, you have a choice in the matter, of who you marry. It's not just God, okay, I marry this person even though I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's not
and
how
I think sometimes if you've been with someone a while and you've really gotten to know them and you're not attracted, it could just be God's way of telling you, this is a great person, but maybe just not the right person for you. So our next question, did you have a feeling or spirit of unease when dating or getting to know certain guys? Just not at complete peace. Nothing is wrong with them and they honestly could work out. You are really attracted to them and you want to be with them, but something down in the pit of your stomach and spirit within you is at unease, uncertainty, and fear. Should you be taking this as a sign and direction from the Holy Spirit, especially if you have been praying intently about clarity regarding this person?
And I think it goes on to say, or do you find that has to do with your own fears and anxiety?
Yes.
I totally relate to this because I remember in college, I would be so scared. I'd hang out with these guys, and then as soon as they wanted to get serious, I would ghost them, which was horrible. But the reason was because I wanted to throw up when I saw them or thought about them. I just was so scared. And I eventually, at first I was like, maybe this is the Holy Spirit, showing me these aren't right for me. But then I'm like, I don't know, this feels like my fear and anxiety. And so I ended up talking with my pastor's wife about it. And she's like, you need to do some deep healing work inside from past relationships. And so I started meeting with her and my pastor once a month for 2 or 3 years, I want to say, and just talking through my past relationship that had been really horrible and kind of starting to distinguish what is my fear, what is my anxiety, what is the Holy Spirit, and it can be hard to tell the difference. So I think it's all stuff you need to pay attention to. If there's that feeling deep down, pay attention to that, but it doesn't always mean what we think it might. Eventually, after meeting with my pastor and his wife for a while, I met this guy and I was like, I don't know if this is right or not. He's really nice though. And they were like, just date him. Like, don't think about, am I going to marry him? Just like get to know him for a few months and then start thinking a little further down the road. And so I like met with them throughout that process, and it was just so helpful. And even though I didn't end up with him, that relationship was incredibly healing for me. I'm so thankful I got to be in that relationship with that guy, to see like there are good guys out there. This is how you're treated. And it just healed a lot of things inside me. And so, yeah, I guess pay attention to all of it, but get counsel as to what it might be.
Yeah, I think it's so important, like Tiffany did, that if you have this feeling, talk to someone. Talk to someone who's wiser. Talk to someone who maybe is married. Because I think a lot of times as you start talking, you might realize, well, I have this feeling, but it's tied to this what he said, and this thing that he did. And the person that you're bouncing this off may say, you need to look into those things more.
Those are red flags.
Yes, or conversely, as you talk about this, like Tiffany's mentors did, they might say, wow, this is really much more about you than it is about this person.
Yeah. Okay, here's another question that I super relate to. Did you ever feel like you would be single forever? Another person wrote, is it wrong that I want to get married before Jesus returns? And I totally remember thinking that when I was single.
Goodness. All right, percentage of Christians who wonder, has God given me the gift of singleness?
Oh my goodness, yes.
100%. Everyone does at some point in time.
I think that's probably true. I'm reminded of my 25th birthday. I had just quit my job to start traveling and speaking around the country, living out of my PT Cruiser. And I woke up that morning and I just all of a sudden felt attacked by like these thoughts, like, what if the fact that I'm starting to travel around the country and speak means that I'm going to be single forever? What if I have to make a choice between like following this ministry or getting married? And I just, all of a sudden I was like, Lord, help me. And I just felt like he said, I never asked you those questions, so you don't have to answer them. And it was like they just broke. And I feel like sometimes we ask all these what if questions that God has not asked us. And there's no way, we don't know what the future holds. We don't. And that's hard. And there is that fear sometimes, which is normal. But just to remember, like, God has not asked you those what if questions.
How do I navigate singleness in the church when the Christian men always pursue the same kind of women? Although I interact with these Christian men and serve in the church, they only seem to initiate dates with the women who are super skinny and outgoing.
Oh, I always felt like that in high school. I remember there being these girls who were like skinny and outgoing, and I was like, why do the guys go for them? They don't even have that great of a walk with God. And like all this, I was very judgmental. Why don't they go for people like me? I totally relate to that.
Yes. Guys totally do this. It is a tribute to our shallowness. I think that as guys really become more mature, like especially once you get past 25, your brain is fully developed. They start to realize that, hey, maybe there's like this cultural stereotype of beauty, but I also, if I think about it, I'm attracted to someone who maybe looks a little different as well.
Yeah, I definitely did this too, though. I think as girls we do this. I mean, I was all about the guys who were 6'3" tall. And if anyone didn't measure up to that, I just like, it was like I didn't even notice they were there. So thankfully, like as I grew older, I started realizing that really doesn't matter.
And I would say appreciate how small your pool is.
True.
Like 7 billion people in the world, billions of Christians, hundreds of millions of Christian guys. You only know like a very small handful.
That's a good point.
Maybe this is a good reason to try to find and meet people in different settings. Sort of as a part B to that, were there parts of you that you felt needed to change and that is why you were single?
Yeah, I thought that all
So
the time.
stuff on the outside like physical appearance and things on the inside like being kinder. Number one lie, top 5 lie for sure, is you're single because God still has stuff to work on in your life.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Maybe every once in a while
No.
that's true, but I'm talking like less than 5% of the time, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, your being single is not a sign from God that you're not ready yet. There are always things about our lives that need to change, and I think that we always just need to keep being humble and asking God and asking others and finding out, what areas we're meant to be growing in each season of our lives.
And another thing I'd say is I felt super insecure about certain parts of myself. I was convinced that the reason I was single is because I was like too loud and too like ambitious and stuff like that. And those are the things that James loves about me.
I love that about you.
And I have a friend who was like super insecure about her butt and felt like it was too big, and that her husband loves that about her. So I think sometimes the things we're most insecure about are the things that our partner is gonna love in us. So maybe that can encourage you. And our final question for these videos is this one, which is, have you ever thought an ex-boyfriend or someone you dated was the one you were gonna marry and then you lost them?
Oh my goodness. The girl I dated before I dated Tiffany, we only dated for 3 months. We honestly, in retrospect, did not have that deep or meaningful of a relationship, but for some reason I thought we were going to be together forever. So when she ended up saying one night, you know, this relationship isn't working for me and we're done, I was like, oh, I can't even believe this. And I was so hurt. And I mean, it's like all the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
I was angry. I was in denial. I wrote her a letter. I called her. And, you know, it took me a while to realize, oh, it wasn't something I did wrong. That's not something I can fix.
Yeah.
She isn't going to change her mind and decide we're going to get back together. I think eventually, you know, the toughest part is you can't take a break from thinking about this person and the hurt, but eventually it starts to not hurt as much.
That's so true. I know for me, there was this guy who we were friends for years, and it was kind of this back and forth. I talk about it in my book, Boy Crazy, that will they, won't they kind of thing. And it was hard for me to move past that for a while. And I think there was a part of it in the back of my head until I got together with James. And I think there's this...
Yeah, that's super common, I think.
For a lot of my friends, that's been the case. Like, there's this person in their heads until they meet someone who's, like, better fitted for them. And then they're like, oh, this is so much better. So I hope these things can encourage you. Can't wait to see who emails me from the last video about his brother. I know I'm, like, so pumped about this. Bye, guys.